to the Cooler Women's Wellness Tribe, the podcast. Get comfortable, get your walking shoes on, and let's get going. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cooler Women's Wellness Podcast. And I have an amazing guest today. He's a friend of mine as well. I have Liv here. I'm very excited about this. She is a yoga teacher, sound healer, and a certified Wim Hof instructor. And that's what we're going to talk all about today. And her mission is to help you harness your inner power to boost your happiness and your health. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be
very excited. So before we get into the breath work, I know we've just, before I press record, just for the listeners, I think we've already just done the whole podcast. Just chat ourselves, yeah. So share a little bit about yourself. I always like to start so people can, have a visual, where you come from, what you do, and all the bits in between.
Okay, so as you said, I teach yoga, sound healing meditation, and recently trained to be a Wim Hof instructor. But look at me 2 years ago, I was living a totally different life. Like I was working in a corporate and just honestly never, ever, ever thought I would become a teacher of any kind. So I've kind of done a total 180. But I just had this kind of overwhelming, like, anxiousness and unhappiness, I think, for quite a while towards the end of working in my corporate job. And I just couldn't suppress it any longer, I think. So I used to do yoga like 4 or 5 times a week. And that was kind of like my place of kind of peace. And I kind of saw a lot of self-growth and development just through keeping that commitment in yoga. And so I remember I was in Nepal and I was going back to the office like the next day. And I was just getting so anxious, like, I don't want to go back. Like, what is going on? Like, it was so overwhelming. And I just couldn't keep living this lie of like going into work, pretending everything was fine. When really it just was kind of crumbling. Like, I don't know what to do. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then Tony, when we were in Nepal, was just like, well, what is it that you enjoy? What is it that you potentially might want to do? And I was like, well, I enjoy yoga, but like, I don't want to be a yoga teacher. That was kind of what was going on. And then 2 months later, I just handed my notice in. I was just like, something was just so overwhelming. Like, this is what you need to do. So I went to India, did my yoga training. This was 2020. And then COVID hit. So I actually got stuck in India for a little bit whilst COVID was just like going wild. And then couldn't get back into Dubai. So flew back to the UK, was there for a few months and just was kind of figuring things out, I guess. Things started to become a little bit clearer that I definitely didn't want to be in that corporate life. I wanted to focus more on my health. And that was essentially it. I just wanted to learn more about my health. That was my main priority. I didn't really realize that I was kind of healing myself along the way. I was just kind of being committed to yoga, to sound healing, to breath work. And then on that journey, things started to become clearer. Like, don't get me wrong, it was very stressful at the time. I was battling with all sorts of like imposter syndrome, like you're in the wrong job, because I started to like think, okay, maybe I can teach yoga and maybe I will try this. But I think it's just finding that confidence in yourself and just keep facing those fears, keep facing that self-doubt. I just kept showing up. Like, I genuinely Like, I'm being totally honest, I never saw myself in any of this wellness role. My mum said to me like 10 years ago, she's a wellness practitioner in energy healing. And she was like, you're going to be doing things like this in whenever. And I was always like, no, so resistant. Here I am now.
Mums are always right.
I know, she knew.
Oh, I didn't know that your mum worked in the wellness industry as well. But yeah, I love your story. I feel your story is very similar to mine as well, that it's just that overwhelming urge to leave what you're doing and then following your heart, isn't it? So
exactly.
And it's not planned. And how did you get into, you know what I didn't mention at the beginning, your ice baths as well? So we'll also talk about that as well, didn't the ice woman of Dubai in a good way. So how did you get into I know yoga and breath work go hand in hand, but into more, you work with breath work separately now. How did the love of breath work kind of grow?
Good question. So it was, like I said, first of all, it was yoga, so focused on yoga. And to be honest with you, I didn't really go into the depth of pranayama, which pranayama is the yogic styles of breath work. At the time, I didn't really resonate to like specifically with that. I kind of was more about the physical sides of yoga. So the breathwork stuff came a lot later, and it was actually during COVID, because I started seeing Wim Hof pop up a lot more. And Wim had a very clear, different mission to the main kind of narrative that we see out there. And Wim's mission is, you are all so powerful, you don't know it yet. And I am here as a testimony to this. Like, I've done X, Y, and Z. He's not showing off what he's doing. He's just showing that if you learn how to use your breath properly, and if you regularly put yourself in cold water, and you also team it with mindset practices, you can essentially start turning yourself superhuman. So obviously I was focusing on my health and stuff, and like Wim, I just found a really cool, funny guy with a mission that I loved. Like, this guy is into natural healing. So me and my partner and my brother were really lucky to, during COVID, go on one of Wim's retreats. And we were so lucky because normally there's like 60 people, but because it was COVID, hardly anyone was traveling. There's only 30 people, and it's 2 days at Wim's in the Netherlands. And I was just like, oh my God, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this guy was just like, he's such a big personality, he's such a big character. He exudes love. Like, his energy is like nothing I've ever experienced ever before. Like, he's 65 and he just dedicated his whole entire life. He's been doing this for 50 years to helping others become happier, stronger, and healthier. That's his 3. I will make you happier, stronger, and healthier. And I'm just like, that's what I want. And that's what I want to share. Like, if I'm not happy, stronger, and healthy, I don't enjoy my day-to-day life. So I really started resonating with what he said. And like, especially during COVID, during a time when there was so much fear, people obviously locked away. It was all like this narrative of like, take this medication and it will protect you, blah, blah, blah. But what I noticed was missing was, what about powering up your own immune system for protection and prevention? Like, to me, that was more powerful than any medication that you can take, because yes, there's medication to go to if you get into that situation. But what about strengthening your body and your mind so much that you don't have to take the medication and that you won't get sick? So after that retreat, I was just like, okay, this is incredible. Like, I had such a transformational experience, especially during the breath work. Like, went off to like an outer space after doing this 1 hour breath work with Wim. It was so special, like big releases and visuals and stuff like that. Really pushing myself out of my comfort zones. Like, it was freezing cold over there. We were going in the ice bath for like 12 minutes, and afterwards I couldn't feel my body for 15 minutes of doing like the horse dance. But this is all pushing yourself out of like through extreme discomfort to come back stronger. Like, essentially that is the method. So after that retreat, I just was committed, and I just thought, I'm going to give this method a go. Like, there's so much science behind this method. You can't deny it anymore. Like, Wim was battling for 40 years with no science. So he was being just laughed at and ridiculed for so long. But now there's science, so many studies. So this is why I think it's gaining so much momentum, so much popularity, because people know it works. And yeah, I've been doing it now for like 2.5 years, dedicated.
Amazing. So he was doing obviously the Wim Hof that everyone sees on the TV. So he's been doing this essentially all his life anyway, and it just, without the science, but just knowing that this makes me feel really good. And, you know, he's got these.
Exactly. It was that innate wisdom that he knew in his gut, I'm being drawn to do this. And it was initially, I'm being drawn into cold water, and to go into the cold water to help prepare his mind and to keep him in a very calm state of focus, he would naturally do his breathwork practice. Yeah,
that makes sense. And then it's just taken scientists, I guess, to come along and
literally the most powerful, the study that revolutionized the whole of science and like changed science books, everything like that, was the study where he was injected with a lethal bacteria, an endotoxin. And what Wim said was, if you inject me with this, I won't have any side effects. And they were like, yeah, sure. Because every single other participant in the study who was injected instantly was vomiting, diarrhea, shakes, like extreme reactions within 20, 30 minutes. Wim came back, nothing. So they were all absolutely astounded, all the scientists. It's all videoed. They then said, well, you're this superhuman Iceman. He goes, no, I'm not. This is what I'm trying to prove to you. Give me anyone. I'll train them in 4 days and they'll come back and they'll do exactly the same. So he came back with 12 guys, and 4 days later, they were all injected after just 4 days of breath work, this specific breath work and the cold water exposure training. And none of them were sick, because you've already trained everything, all your chemistry within your body. You've already trained it to understand how to respond to the invader.
Oh my gosh. So that's amazing. I didn't know that. And one question about the experiment, just were they 12 men that the scientists picked as well? So just, it wasn't 12 men that he'd already worked with, 12 fresh men.
These were people who have never practiced the method before. He said, just give me 12 of your average Joes. And these guys don't know what the breathwork is. They don't. And by the end, so they were like playing in freezing cold temperatures in just shorts. They were playing like a game of football, for example. That was one of the trainings. Obviously, they were doing ice baths. Then they were doing the Wim Hof method breathwork. They were doing a lot of mindset practices. A lot of it is to do with the mind and encouraging this mind-body connection. But essentially what it shows is that the human is able to consciously, at will, control your autonomic systems in the body. And that was never, ever seen to be possible before for a human being. So that's why so amazing. And people are like curing all sorts of diseases and illnesses, or it's helping alleviate symptoms. And for me, what it did was I now have trained myself and learned how to use my full respiratory system. So my lungs are working better than they've ever worked. Before, growing up, like, I've always had chronic bronchitis. It's just something I've grown up with. Whenever I would have whenever I'd have a low immune system, like stressed or been on like a bender, like a festival or like a hen do or something, like my body would be on shutdown and I couldn't breathe properly. Like, that was just my body's response. Like, everyone gets different responses when your immune systems go low. And mine was just always from growing up, like having bronchitis. So I'd always get inhalers, steroids, but it can be very debilitating. Like, it would be scary. I'd have to go to the doctors, get on oxygen, because when you can't breathe, I don't know if you've ever experienced it. Obviously, it's very frightening. But during this time, I've totally, touch wood, healed my lungs. I don't have chest infections. I don't have bronchitis. I want to go and get them like checked, because I want to see like how they're looking now in comparison to what they've from just the last 3 years. I've had nothing.
Wow, that's amazing. And what is I know that you could probably talk for hours on the science. In short, how does it work? Like, what is it actually doing to your body?
Yeah. So during the breath work, you are we're calling it a controlled hyperventilation. This is in the specific breath, Wim Hof breath. So in this controlled hyperventilation, you're doing a dynamic inhale, and then you're just passively letting the breath go. So you're not like going a dynamic inhale, then really aggressively exhaling, because that would be a hyperventilation. But in this controlled hyperventilation, it's the dynamic inhale and then just the slow passive exhale. So what you're doing in that is you're changing the chemistry within your body. So you're changing your O2 and your CO2 levels. So you're flooding your body with so much oxygen. And that is where all sorts of biochemical changes are coming in, because a lot of issues come from not actually oxygenating our cells enough. And when you look at that over a long, sustained period of time, well, what is the body's fuel? It's the breath, because it's oxygen. So you're creating this really nice dynamic effect where you're bringing in a lot more oxygen. And then we go into a really nice breath hold. So this is where a lot of the magic happens, in the breath hold. So if I asked you just to hold your breath now, you'd maybe be able to hold it for like 10, 15 seconds. But during the Wim Hof breath, because we've changed the chemistry within our body so much, you are fully oxygenated. You can actually hold your breath for minutes in this breath hold. And I know you've been practicing the method, and you're saying now you can easily get to 1 minute 30. Yeah. Which is amazing.
And
so
I can vouch for not being able to hold my breath like the first couple of times. I don't even think so. We'll talk about the method, but the video, I do one on YouTube, and it is Wim talking. So the first breath is a minute hold, and even then I was like, oh my god, I can't even hold for a minute. And I was like singing songs in my head to try and take my mind off, like, ugh. And I was having to just take a breath. But even now, I don't know how long I should have made a note of. I've been consistently doing it every morning. I'm going to say for 2 months. And now the 1.5 minutes, like when the video ends, it's 11 minutes. I'm like, oh, I could definitely carry on. And hold for longer. And that's just in two months.
Exactly. This is it. And also in the first round, well, I'll just go back to the science. So essentially in that breath hold, that's where a lot of the magic happens. So you've obviously oxygenated everything so much. So you've created this amazing alkaline environment. You've actually reduced the acidity in your body. And that's amazing, because we want to rebalance our acidity levels, because dis-ease, I like to call it dis-ease, and illness in the body, that lives in an acidic environment. So when you bring that beautiful alkaline environment along with all that oxygen, you're giving your body a nice clean out from all of that toxic stuff going on. So that's a nice little clean out from the alkalinity. Then you're in this beautiful breath hold. During that breath hold, the CO2 begins to rise. And that's interesting, because that then brings a hypoxic state. And hypoxia, that starts working with your blood cells. And there's so much incredible science that happens in this. So there's your white blood cells and your red blood cells. Now, white blood cells are amazing. You actually create more white blood cells just by doing that protocol. And that's amazing, because white blood cells help your immune system. So that was exactly why Wim could fight off at will the E. coli being injected into his body, because he's demanded his white blood cells to come in and get the invader. Like, incredible. So that's number one, the white blood cells. That's going to give you an insane immune system. And that's what I can put down. I don't get ill. Like, genuinely, I haven't got ill for over 2.5 years. No colds, no flus, no COVID, no chest infections. Insane. And look at all the studies, look at people who are practicing the method. Like, when you don't generally get ill because of this science. You're creating such a strong immune system. So that's number one, great amount of white blood cells in production. Number two, because of the hypoxic state, you create a surge of red blood cells. Red blood cells are amazing because they carry the oxygen around your body. And we want that. We want as much oxygen to get around our body, because like I mentioned before, that is your fuel. So if your cells are getting more oxygen, amazing. They're going to start performing better, because if you start looking at the body like in microscope form, we are just made up of trillions of cells. So we want to really feed that cellular health. And like, the simplest, most powerful way to do it is the breath. If you think, like, going back to basics, yes, obviously food and nutrition is amazing, but you can survive without food for a very long amount of time. You can survive without water for even, obviously, a long amount of time as well. But you can't survive without the breath for minutes, because they're all relying on that oxygen. So if we start breathing properly, you will start noticing your body will function so much better.
Yeah, I'm coming up with a metaphor in my head. It's kind of it's kind of like how we have to look after our cars. And I always compare we look after our cars, we take it for MOT, we put petrol in, windscreen wash, water, blah, 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 blah. But we don't really do that for ourselves. And with the breath work, it kind of is doing that. So it's, it's the petrol, the windscreen washer, it's the oil, it's, all of these things that's helping keep the body moving.
Exactly.
The same love as we show our car.
Yeah.
It's, every day. Yeah.
I think people look at breathwork as like, oh, it's too confusing, it's too overwhelming, like, I don't know how to use it. But actually, the Wim Hof method has been created to make it super, super simple. And there is a lot of breathwork practices out there. And I'm not saying Wim Hof is the only method. Like, I also do other styles of breathwork, but the Wim Hof is providing you so much within just one practice. So that's always my personal go-to, because like, it's helped me so much. It helped me leave my job as well. Like, I will 100% put that down to the Wim Hof method, because by pushing myself out of my comfort zone, but obviously there's the breath work, which we've been talking about, but the other thing that I was so committed to was the cold water. And the cold water exposure, like putting yourself through that discomfort time and time and time again when you don't want to, but pushing through what your mind is telling you, you actually start to change your neurology in your brain. And by doing that over and over and over again, it's just brain training. So you start to create new pathways in your brain. So your brain starts to operate differently. I gained so much confidence and just self-belief by doing the method. I didn't know at the time because it was such a gradual process. And I was like, when I said to you, I was so unhappy at my job, like I handed my notice in, but my CEO said, no, you're not leaving. So I actually continued to work there for an extra 12 to 18 months, all during COVID, because I didn't have that self-belief that I could do it. So I went part-time for so long. And then just by doing the method and stuff, and then really starting to understand, actually, no, like I can do this and this is my path, and started to believe in myself more. Like I said to you, I never even believed that I could be a teacher or anything like that. But really the Wim Hof method has brought, there's so much mental benefits as well, like helps to relieve anxiety, depression, helps put you into a more calm, focused, energized headspace. And you will notice that just within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It does. I find, obviously, being a yoga teacher and doing yoga, you have the breath work that comes with that. But for me as well, I feel like that the two separate entities, but they kind of have come together. Whereas, throughout the day, if I do find myself getting sitting in traffic, or something pops into your head, and then you're worried or you're stressed, I can feel like bubbling up inside, just going and literally let just really. And then the difference for me from the yoga breath is I use my mouth on the Wim Hof breath, and yoga is a lot through. Yeah, I know there's lots and lots of different ones. But just simply put, that's for me, just that breath to.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And it's just reminding you to get into the present moment. I think, again, going back to that feeling of everyone's like, I don't really know what breath work is, like it's too overwhelming. Well, it is as literally as simple as just bringing your awareness on your breath, because as soon as you've done that, you're out of the past, you're out of the future, you're just literally in that moment. And if that's all you get from breath work, to be honest, amazing that it helps you get into that present moment just to relieve some of that stress and anxiety, then that is invaluable in itself, because stress and anxiety causes so much illness.
And the space that you get into with the Wim Hof breath work is like, the first time I did a breath work session, I wasn't expecting to feel what I felt. I felt like someone had drugged my drink, even and I was a bit scared. So the first time I did this breath work, and halfway through I ended up faking it, because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out. I'm tingling. I'm going off into another dimension. I feel like I've taken drugs. And then I was a bit like, I didn't know what to, I'd gone into it blind, I guess. But then I went back, because there was something that I was like, I felt good after that. That was good. Like, I really felt different, even though I panicked halfway through.
Yeah.
Then I went to another session, and I went with someone who hadn't done breath work before. And I was like, oh, I'm the expert. I've done one session, but I warned her, and I was like, right, this might happen. Yeah. And then that second time, then I got it, and I was like, wow. And then I've done a few, and then I came to yours to do the breath work before the ice. Again, I'd only ever done one ice bath before, but without the breath work. And honestly, everyone needs to try it, because just the feeling of like, oh my God, I did it, first of all, you know, when you get out of the ice.
Yeah.
When you're in the ice and it's not that cold and it's like, what? You know, I'm in ice. And then you move and you're like, oh, it is cold. But and you're also good, like talking you through anyway. But just that exhilaration of, oh my God, I've just done it. And your skin's tight and you're tingly and you're doing the horse dance after. And, you know, after me and my boyfriend went to Lives for a session, we need to come back. In the supermarket after, I was like, like.
Exactly. That's the thing. I've never had anyone leave my session not buzzing. That's why I love it so much, because the benefits are instant and they're also long term as well. So it's kind of like, it's a total win-win. Like, it's instant because you get so much adrenaline, which releases loads of dopamine. There's studies to show you get 250% like injection of dopamine. Like, how unreal is that? Like, why do we not all want that? It's a natural high. Like, Wim just calls it, we get high on our own supply. Like, why would anyone not want to do that? Because when we're like in our day to day, there's a lot of stress going on. Like, it's coming from all angles. A lot of us are working super hard, got super busy lives, kids, like social, families, everything. And sometimes we are depleted of energy, depleted of serotonin and dopamine. And when we have that depletion in our hormones, that actually creates anxiety and depression. And you don't know why you're not feeling good. Like, things are going right. Like, I feel on top of stuff. I'm eating right. I'm sleeping right. I'm working out. But sometimes there is that disconnect inside your the chemistry of your body. So, I think my mission is to just encourage people to realize there is so much more going on inside that you can tap into. It's literally just waiting there. And a lot of it can just be unleashed with your breath, with plunging yourself into an ice bath or like cold shower, which is mental, but just give it a go, because you will feel those instant effects.
Yeah, and it's there, you know, you don't have to order anything from Amazon. You don't have to, you know, it's your brain. It's there. Like,
and that's the funny people, you know, the pharmaceuticals aren't encouraging it because it's free. They don't want everyone to just be breathing, because it's not going to earn the $1 trillion
exactly
industry in the world money. So
and I would say anyone who is listening to this and you're intrigued, and especially the feeling that, you know, if you're listening to this and you've done Ibiza and you've taken substances and you're like, no, you're not gonna. Honestly, the feeling that you get is very similar to, you know, I could have been standing in space in Ibiza, you know, arms in the air, like having a proper rage straight on my face. You completely, like, you go off to on it, but in a good way. That's why it scared me the first time. So I was like, whoa, what the hell is this? But then now it's kind of the bit that you wait for and you're like, yes, I can feel it coming.
So when you're lying down, just so to give the listeners a bit of an insight, so you always do it where you're safe and where you're comfortable, and it's all about making yourself super comfortable. So if that's like lying on a sofa, or you can even do it in your bed, and like when you are guided through the breath work, you might feel some tingling sensations, you might feel the body temperature change, hot and cold. You might feel a bit of dizziness and lightheadedness. And then you might get that amazing euphoric feelings, which you're saying. You might see colors and visuals. These are all signs of you influencing your biochemistry. And these are all totally normal, totally safe. So I just love it. And you instantly just feel that, like, just alertness, that energize. That's why I love to do it in the morning, to get rid of any kind of brain fog or fatigue.
Yeah, that's when I do it in the morning. And the beauty of it is as well, you panic, you just breathe. Like just breathe normally. It's, you know, you can just, if you get like, whoa, you just breathe.
You can always just reduce, you can always just come back into a more calm breath if any of the feelings get too much. But it's completely safe. Like, obviously, if you've got a specific condition, then we would work with that, and we wouldn't advise pregnant ladies to do it. But yeah.
So just before we go, can you give us just a 1 minute example of how, and obviously I'll put all Liv's information in the show notes so you can, you know, go and investigate her and go a bit deeper into this, but just 1 minute of breath work. God, I'll do it on this side.
You want Wim Hof or
the 1 minute of Wim Hof? Yeah,
let's do it. Okay, amazing. Okay, closing down your eyes. Nice. I want you to relax the body and just begin to come into your space. So I want you just to let go of maybe the day that you're having. I want you to let go of anything that's coming up for you, just really starting to relax into this moment. Okay, amazing. So with the Wim Hof, we take nice deep inhales, and this can either be through the nose or through the mouth. So we'll just take between probably 10 to 15, and then we'll just go into a nice breath hold at the end. So with the inhale, it's nice and dynamic. The exhale is just passive. Good. So let's go. Inhale and let it go. Nice. Deeply in and let it go. Fully in and let it go. Nice. Into the belly, into the chest, and just relax, release. Good. Fully in and out. Deeply in and letting go. Fully in, expand all the way up. Nice and relax. Perfect. Keep going, keep breathing. Fully in and let it go. Nice. Keep with this pace, keep with this flow. Beautiful. Keep the breath connected as well. We don't stop. That's it. Deeply in and let it go. Fully in and out. Nice. Don't hold back. Really explore with the breath. Send the breath all the way down into your lower body. Expand in the side and then really fill the chest. So you feel the breath rising like a wave. Good. Keep it coming. Fully in and letting go. Let's take 3 more breaths. Give it everything you've got. Fully in and let it go. Nice. Last breath, fully in and let it go and just hold. And just hold your breath here. Good. I want you to relax. Relax in the shoulders. Relax the face. Your chemistry is just right. You are fully oxygenated in this moment. Really start to turn your awareness, your focus inward. Maybe you can feel your heartbeat. You're doing amazing. Keep holding if you can. Doing so well. If you feel that trigger to breathe, breathe. Otherwise, hold with me. I'm going to be here for another 10. 5, 4, 3, 2. Inhale, deeply inhale. Hold all the way to the top. Hold, squeeze. Bring all your energy up through your root chakra, all the way through your spine, up into your brain. Squeeze for 3, for 2, And let it all go. Welcome back.
Yeah, such a good feeling. So if you were doing that, just take a moment just to feel it.
Exactly. Yeah. Take your time to come back if you've just practiced that.
When you were talking then, I could hear Wim Hof's in belly, how he says belly every time. Oh.
Yeah. That's it becomes so ingrained because I love to be led by Wim as well. So I'll put him on YouTube every morning.
Yeah, through the belly. And just that his voice was coming out of yours.
Yeah.
One more thing, just before we go. Yes. What would you like to leave? So I always ask my guests for a last message or a top tip or last wise words. What would you like to say?
Oh, I would say do something that challenges you as much as you can. Whether that is taking an ice bath or just whatever it is, putting yourself out of your comfort zone is powerful. And the more you do it, the more you realize how powerful you are. I think that's where I've seen most change myself. So yeah, go for it. Whatever you've been putting on.
Just do it. Just to quote Nike.
Yeah, just do it. Copying Nike. They said it best.
Thank you very much. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed that and learned lots as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Breath work in the morning, I'll be able to visualize my songs as well and the magic happening, the science. Yes.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'll put everything, all Liv's information in the show notes. So you can reach out to her. You do sessions online, don't you? Breathwork sessions? Yes, for everyone that's not in Dubai.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, my love. See you.
And that's it today, everybody. I hope you have a lovely week and I'll see you again next week. Don't forget, 5 stars, download, tell your friends. You're amazing.